Epidemiology.
Influenza by Chris Eigenman
And Garrett Yost.
What is influenza?
Influenza, also known as the flu, is a highly contagious viral infection of the respiratory passages, causing fever, severe aching, and catarrh. It often occurs in epidemics.
The flu's pathogen is known as the influenza virus. Its main parts are the hemagglutinin, neuraminidase, single-stranded RNA, capsid, and lipid envelope.
How does the flu attack the body?
First, the virus binds and enters into the host cells. The hemagglutinin binds onto sialic acid sugars on the surfaces of epithelial cells, typically in the nose, throat, and lungs of mammals and the intestines of birds. The virus imports the RNA genome into the cell through endocytosis.
Next, the virus replicates its genetic material into the host cell nucleus.
After that, the replicated genetic material turns into mRNA to translate the genes to the ribosomes. As this happens, another virus cell is made and exits the host cell through exocytosis.
What are the symptoms of the common flu?
Well, for the first 2 days, you won't have any symptoms. And then for the next 5 to 7 days, you'll experience a very sudden onset of fever, fatigue, sneezing, chills, and muscle/body aches. The last few days, you may still experience some lingering fatigue or sore throat, but the fever and the bulk of the symptoms are gone.
Life expectancy is that you are most likely going to survive after catching the flu. The only people that would maybe die from the flu are elderly people, babies, and people with immune system problems such as autoimmune disorders. Another way you can die from the flu is if it becomes pneumonia.
The epidemiological cycle is the list of disease determinant factors. The agent is the pathogen, usually being a fungi, bacteria, or virus. The host is the victim of the disease. The environmental conditions are literally the environmental conditions the agent needs to survive. Another factor could be a vector. The vector is an organism that carries and spreads the disease.
The flu's agent is the influenza virus. The flu regularly infects humans, but can infect animals such as dogs, whales, bats, and even seagulls. The flu doesn't require specific environment conditions, although under the right conditions, the virus's life can be prolonged up to 1 month. Birds and pigs are the main vector of the flu, even though there are other animals that can be vectors.
The flu is epidemic. Are there any ways we can prevent infection of the flu?
Actually, there are 2 ways. Trivalent and quadrivalent. Trivalent shots come in many forms. The traditional shot for anyone over 6 months old just has a large needle that would go into your calf or your arm. Intradermal shots is the same shot with a shorter needle for ages 18 to 64. High-dose shots for people over 65 or elderly people. Cell-based shots grown in an animal for those over 18. Recombinant shots created using DNA technology approved for people from 18 to 49 with severe egg allergies. These shots and nasal sprays are vaccines, and they will only last for 1 flu season, after which the flu virus can mutate. Some other things that you can do to prevent from being infected by the flu is to wash your hands and keep them away from your face. Try to stay away from people who are infected, and if you are exposed to the flu, you can take antiviral drugs such as Influenza and Tamiflu.
Unfortunately, because of the fact that the flu mutates regularly, no one has been able to eradicate the flu.
Some interesting facts. Viruses are the smallest type of pathogen.
Viruses is Latin for poisons.
The most common is basic seasonal flu.
Influenza affects about 5% to 20% of the U.S. each year.
200,000 people a year are hospitalized from flu-complicated issues.
Other types of flus exist of swine flu and avian flu.
The 1918 flu epidemic, also known as the Spanish flu, infected about 1/3 of the world's population at the time. About 50 million people died of the Spanish flu, including almost all of Europe.
The Spanish flu was also known as La Gripe.
Created using Powtoon.